ever considered yourself a bit of a busy fool? If the high street's busy, if the pavements are full, all the local events are pulling in the crowds, so your footfall figures are up, but footfall doesn't save a high street. If sales aren't growing in line with the visitor numbers, profits certainly won't be. If you're a retailer working harder than ever and not seeing the reward, what's going wrong? So in this episode, I'm going to review some of the key themes that we talked about in a really strong discussion. My team joined me and I hosted for Public Policy Exchange, and it's all about the future of UK high streets. We were together with experts in placemaking, digital visibility and retail crime, and we explored questions that I think sits at the heart of the high street debate. Are we actually just focusing on getting lots of people through the door and not enough on what happens once they're there? So I'm Clare Bailey, the retail champion, and this is Retail Reckoning.
Retail Reckoning owns the floor.
Now, before anyone accuses me of saying that footfall doesn't matter, I want to be absolutely clear. Of course it matters. Shops, cafes, service businesses, high street businesses in general, we all need customers. And nobody's ever built a thriving business without people walking through the door. But I think that there's a slight obsession with footfall as a measure of success. I'd much rather have 10 less customers that make me more money than 10 more customers that just treat me as an art gallery and wander around my store. And the more I work with, retailers, councils, business improvement districts, and so on, the more I find myself asking, are we confusing activity and noise with the real outcomes that really matter? Because a busy high street can still be a struggling high street, and businesses can still shut down because of so many other reasons, and it isn't just about footfall. I mean, I've stood in town centres, shopping centres and whatnot, packed with people. I've spoken to retailers worried about sales, and I've seen events hailed as a huge success because thousands of people attended, but businesses are still sort of questioning, was that additional trade justified in the time, effort and cost involved? And that's one of the biggest issues. And I think that's one of the most important questions we need to ask, is not how many people came, but then what? Did they spend? Did they stay? Did they discover a new business that they didn't know existed before? Did they come back? That's really important, retention. I mean, did they tell other people? Did they give good reviews? Or were they just passing through, taking an advantage of an event or an activity, but not really exploring? And I think that distinction matters because footfall isn't a strategy, it's an outcome of an activity. And it's often the result of getting lots of other things right. And that theme came up over and over again during our discussion. We came across the biggest challenges that face high streets today is that also many of the support programs, regeneration plans and all that sort of stuff are rooted in a bit of an outdated understanding of consumer behaviour because consumers have changed so dramatically. And then the other thing, a lot of media coverage might be blamed for this. We talk about bringing back the high street, but bringing back to what? Because the past is a time before customers were looking at reviews and looking at things like TripAdvisor and Trustpilot and Google. They weren't searching online in advance. They weren't comparing prices. But now they're looking for parking information and they want to know that the business is readily available, accessible and open before they even leave home. Now, that going back to the high street version no longer exists because the customer journey starts way before someone actually arrives in a town. A lot of the time, the physical visit is far from the beginning of the customer journey. It's more like the end of it. And a repeat visit's even more important. Customers have often already decided whether somewhere's worth visiting before they've even left the house. And they will have looked into that in great detail. And this is why when my colleague Steph was speaking, we went into digital visibility. And that's a crucial issue from the discussion because businesses might not have a footfall problem, they have a discoverability problem, and customers cannot buy from businesses they cannot find. It's quite simple. I mean, also, when Kim was speaking, we were talking about place management, things like wayfinding. If you do visit a place for one reason, but there's great signage, finger posts and so on, it helps them to explore further. And the simple fact is, we still know from the ONS data that shoppers are still spending more in store than they are online. But they can't visit a business that they can't find, and they can't visit a business they don't understand. And therefore, they can't ever become loyal if nobody explained why it's worth visiting in the first place. One of the key themes that came across loud and clear, both from a placemaking point of view, so a sort of a wider place strategy, and from a specific business point of view, which Kim and Steph covered beautifully, was the digital world and the physical world just cannot be separated. They are part of the same customer journey. But so many businesses and so many support programs treat them as separate things, and it isn't. Another theme that we covered over this event was the experience. Most people don't need to visit a high street anymore. They can shop online, book online, do everything they need to do online. So what makes them choose to make the journey? And it's clear from the conversations that we had between the speakers that the places that thrive have a very clear answer to that question. They have a personality, a purpose, identity, and they help create experiences that people remember, and they're offering something distinctive. It's not the homogenization. I believe that's important because the world's becoming so automated and so generic that with AI and everything else, and with so many online options, that in fact, and I've said this for a while, there's increased value in places that feel human and authentic. And I actually think that the future high street needs to be less beige and more brilliant. We also talked about the importance of collaboration, and everyone agreed that businesses need to work together. There is obviously competition for share of wallet, and customers have only got so much money to splash the cash, as it were. But it could be that one day they want this and one day they want that. And collaboration doesn't just happen because people think it's a good idea. It's because it works. It helps make the place feel cohesive. I mean, we all know that retailers, high street business owners, they're busy people. Community groups are busy too. But there is a requirement for place management, whether it be a business improvement district or whatever it is, for someone to coordinate the activity, help connect the people and keep things going and keep the momentum up. Because without leadership, even the best ideas sometimes won't go beyond an idea. It will just get lost in all the noise. Another topic we came onto, which I believe deserves a lot more attention than it receives, is safety. My colleague Graham Sharp made his argument that retail crime isn't just an individual retailer issue. It's also at place level. If staff feel unsafe, if customers feel unsafe, investors or people who are visiting, everyone will notice. And when businesses feel unsupported and unwelcome, perhaps, then potentially occupiers of vacant units are going to notice. Safety underpins confidence. And I think that's one of the most valuable assets that a town centre can have. If confidence starts to erode, businesses will start to leave, move away, close down, shoppers will stop shopping, and everything just becomes harder. I thought that one of the most powerful observations for the discussion was that safety is more like infrastructure, not an extra, not a security guard at the door, because without people feeling safe, they will go somewhere else. As we closed the webinar, I did the polishing off words, as you call it, and I was reflecting on how often we're looking for that golden nugget. Is it free parking? Is it a town centre event, a campaign, more social media? Is it more funding? Is it crime reduction? But The reality that came through on this session was that thriving high streets are not just one thing. They're an ecosystem of commercial, social, digital, and human activity. I honestly believe, from many years of experience, far more than I want to admit because it makes me feel old, that places that succeed are the places that understand how all these elements work together in harmony, which I kind of think brings me back to where I started. The danger of being a busy fool, because busy doesn't mean successful. More people on the high street doesn't necessarily mean more profit. Footfall does not tell us as much as we need to know about health about the place. What tells us the health of a place is repeat footfall, happy customers, safety, cleanliness, and an environment where businesses can thrive. And the places that will thrive, probably over the next decade, although a decade's a long time in the modern world, will be those who attract more visitors and know how to create value from every visit, so that it'll be attraction and retention, and ideally positive reviewing. So, just thought I'd sum up our webinar. I'm Clare Bailey, the Retail Champion. This has been Retail Reckoning, and thank you for listening.